Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Daily Thread. We have a special guest that'll be joining on this episode, so stay tuned. We're happy to have you back here on this program. Welcome to the Daily Thread. Okay, so before we hear from our guest on today's episode, it's been a while since we had an episode of Daily Thread, longer than ever that we've gone. A little bit withdrawal over here. A lot of things took place, obviously, over the last couple weeks that we've been absent.
Right.
Some good, some not so good. I think a lot of this episode will be discussing, unfortunately, some things that happened that were unfortunate. Many loss of life in Israel. Unfortunately, Michoel Schnitzler passed away suddenly over this past weekend. And that's going to sort of be the first story we're going to get to. We are going to be joined right now by Shloime Dachs, who was a close friend of Michoel Schnitzler, who worked closely with him, and to hear about his life and his legacy.
I think we should start by explaining, because we have a very vast audience, and includes people like me that don't know so much. We should give a little background of who Michoel Schnitzler was, And I know that I remember the name. I did meet him a couple of times. Last time I met him, I think it wasn't 20 years ago. I met him at a bar mitzvah in Waterbury, Connecticut, where I was invited there for Shabbos, and he was the only Hasidic guy in the place. And we were chit chatting after Shabbos. I didn't know who he was. He sang beautifully. I remember that. He added a lot to the Shabbos. And I said to him at the end of Shabbos, I think we were checking out. We were ready to go home Saturday night. I said to him, "So what are you? Are you a Satmara? Are you a Skvera? What kind of chassid are you?" He looked at me and he said, "It's something new. I'm a chassid of the Rabbanu Shalom."
It reminds me of the story of this bartender who became from. He was looking to become from. He was in LA, and he looked up Orthodox because he found a conservative didn't work for him. All these other type of shuls did not work for him, and he said they take off the yarmulke after shul. He said the rabbi was playing piano in his office on Shabbos. He goes, "What's going on?" So he looks up Orthodox. He found Chabad. He found a rabbi in Chabad. He says, "So are you Orthodox? Are you conservative? Are you Reform?" He goes, "We're friendly. Come on over." And he said the rest is history. He has a whole family of from kids today. And that was Michoel Schnitzler. Whether he was Hasidish, Satma, Litvish, Tells, Bells, I am telling you, there is nobody like him who embodied. He was like the Shlomo Karbach, Hasidish Shlomo Karbach, loved every Jew. And I'm not just saying it. There's a lot of cliches that he lit up every room he walked into, and that he was larger than life. He really was. These sayings come to life. A guy like Michoel Schnitzler, there was nobody like him. He really loved everyone, and no matter what he was going through in his life, the last few years he had a lot of challenges. You never knew it. He just hugged you and loved you. He's such a special person.
So where did he live, and where was he on the rating sheet of you're a child of the music business, a product of the music business. You're not a child anymore, but you're a product of the music business. Where did he line up in the so-called pecking order of the Jewish music business over all these decades?
As far as I know, he's from Seagate. Most of his life he lived in Seagate, so he grew up with all the legends, with MBD, Yossi Green. So he was from Seagate most of his life. He went to Florida for a few years. The last few years he went to Florida, and he sent, if I can go off the topic and drop again, he used to send WhatsApps every single week about just inspiration, just to be meaningful. And this is before podcasts, before anything, just to give people chizuk. I'm here in Florida. The sun is out. The grass is growing. The birds are chirping. He was just such a very happy person. His real break into the Jewish music is really the Hasidic world owes him the most gratitude, because he led the path to Hasidic music. He was like, even before Lipa Schmelzer, before Daskal, before all these singers, Shmili Youngers, he took songs and wrote Yiddish songs. He was, I think, the first to start doing, we're not talking about Yom Tov Erlich. That was a whole different ball game that Avram Fried redid. And he just paved the way for Hasidic music in the world, and the Jewish world owes all that gratitude to him. He just was, before it was in style. He was doing it, and he's just an incredible musical person, special person. I don't know what else to say. All the
Uh,
thoughts can't put into words.
did he write his own music? Is he known for any particular songs that he was he a songwriter?
You know what? I don't know if he wrote his own. I think he did. I'm sure he did. Several years ago, he had a heart attack before this incident now. And he has a song called My Heart. I urge you and your listeners to listen to this song. He wrote it, and he and collaborated with others. Lipa Schmeltzer was very involved the last 5-10 years with him, writing songs for him and doing work together with him. But he has that song, My Heart. In that song, he describes how he was in the world to come. He was up there for 9 minutes, and how he saw Olam Haba, and Hashem sent him back and gave him life again. And he writes how, and the whole song is about a heart. We take for granted. We think that nisim are things that are extraordinary, but just breathing every day, our heart beating, is a miracle. And he opened up our eyes that we can't take for granted anything. We really can't. I always ask this question, Larry and Nachi, I don't know if you ever heard this question. The heart is the most important part of the body. It is the most functional. The heart is the body. We're not talking about neshama. Ruchni is talking the heart. And I always wondered why the heart is on the left side. Why did Hashem make it on the left side? Why didn't Hashem create it on the right side? The right is always yamin. We go to the right. Our right is really the mainstay in Yiddishkeit. So why did Hashem make it on the left side? Do you ever hear that question before?
No, go ahead. I'm anxious to hear the answer.
Fascinating. I heard a fascinating answer. And if Michoel Schnitzler, Olav Hashem, doesn't epitome this answer, he epitomizes what the answer was. The answer is because your heart is not for you. It's not for me. It's for you. It's for Yenim. You have to share your heart, give of your heart, love everyone. So the heart, when you look at me, your heart is on the right side. And it's made for someone else. And that's why it's on the left side, because facing you, it's on the right side. And Michoel Schnitzler was the epitome of heart. And I can't even get into it. When you called him, if I could send you some of his messages, just to say hello, he was so full of life. And we all need to realize that life is short. And we have to just be happy with everything, because we're going to have challenges, what every human being does. And he taught us, let those challenges ride. They'll go away. The next day is better. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And he went through a lot of challenges the last few years of his life. And yet you would never know when you spoke to him that he was going through anything. And it's such a lesson in life. I believe he had two hearts. But I believe when they opened them up the first time, there were two in there. But
Shloime, do you have any personal stories? Like you've been in the music industry for a very long time, and so has he. Have you guys overlapped a lot? Do you have any personal stories with him?
So we didn't overlap a lot, because I'm not from the Yiddish-speaking Hasidic music world. I did send your father this morning. We did do one song together. I had the honor of singing one Yossi Green song on an album called Listig and Lebedik, a quasi-Yiddish Hebrew song, which we did together many years ago, a Yossi Green song, which was beautiful. It was produced by Shir Menlowitz and by Yossi. Me and Mendy Wall did most of the album together, and that was a guest appearance by Michoel Schnitzler. But I'll tell you the most recent moment I had with him when Rubashkin was going through his whole story in jail. If you remember, there was a beautiful song that came out, a unity song, that many singers came out and sang together. And we went to Monsey, to a hall in Monsey. I think it was a Teres Charna. And that's where we recorded it. And I remember coming to record, and I'm seeing all walks of life, all types of singers, Hasidic, Israeli, Litvish, modern, all types were there. There was no, everybody came. It was just a special cause. And I was honored to be even invited. Who am I? So anyway, we get there, and I see Michoel. I got there early for a change, and I see Michoel outside. And you would think that Rubashkin was a Satmar, and he wasn't. But he loved that this Jew was getting out of jail, and they were going to do a song. He just lit up the whole room, and he got us all motivated. Because let's be honest, Rubashkin was in jail, and we weren't there to actually see him while we're recording this. And his wife was there, and some of his children were there, and all we needed was Michoel. And then we felt it, and we understood the cause. And he hugged me. He was just such a larger than life. And he's going to be missed. He's going to be missed.
Yeah.
And we all have to be inspired by people like him.
Okay, Nachi, you have some issues with how the news was reported of his passing. You want to address that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was something that happened that was concerning. It was Friday right before Shabbos. Messages went out, that he had passed away. I think it was around 6 p.m. Messages were going out that he had passed away, and then messages were going out from these same sources that, Baruch Hashem, they found the pulse. And it was so awful that you have these platforms that are trying to be the first ones to break a story, and they don't have the sensitivity to family and to people in general. You know how crazy it is to receive a message. Forget if you're part of the family. If you're part of the family, it's unthinkable. But you're not part of the family. To get a message that someone passed away that and you're like, oh my gosh, and then to say, oh no, they found the pulse. Who in their right mind is so irresponsible to start writing things like this and sending it out? To me, it's like, I know Sarah Rivka Cohn from Shloime's Links or something, one of these organizations posted on LinkedIn yesterday, how like this has to stop. And this is not just a exclusive issue in the Jewish world. This happened when Kobe Bryant passed away. The helicopter crashed, and there's pictures of the scene already making its way online and got to his wife, and before they even were told. And as Jewish people, as the frum world, we always try to be super sensitive and more sensitive, and always go a step above and be better. And I think that in this area, we're failing miserably in a way. The fact that we don't,
I understand what you're saying. I think that what you're seeing in this kind of situation is the general society's deficiencies seeping in to the usual wall that we have built around the frum community. And we just become just very, very vulnerable. And if someone says that he passed away, and then a second later they say they found the pulse, that means that's coming from somebody that's on the scene, unless someone's just making up the news.
No. I think that what you have nowadays is just crazy. Is you have people who are like tuned into Hatzalah radios. They're sort of like buffing, and they're able to hear the communications back and forth. So they'll go ahead and report these things as it's being said and done. I had spoken to people, and they had told me that while these messages were going out and while they were working on him, there were already some news sources, putting out Baruch Dynamis posts while he was still alive, and how terrible that is.
It's really mind-boggling, but you hit it on the nose, Nachi. It's just to be the first to break the news, to be that, to have that. What they would call prestige, that I was the first one to break it. And you're right. It's like, Larry, you said, it's either an Hatzalah member or someone on scene, or perhaps someone who's listening. But whatever it is, it's somebody who's there, who's saying also, whatever you're listening to on the radio, it means they're saying something that perhaps we all have to learn from. Hatzalah, and I'm not chas v'shalom knocking Hatzalah. They are one of the greatest organizations. But that's how these things are leaked, because who else was there to even assume that it wasn't just he fell and he has stitches.
Yeah, but I mean, Hatzalah has to be able to communicate with their other members. I mean, they have to be to say someone's coding, to say that they need more paramedics. It's on other people who are listening to those communications that are able to sort of put two and two together. They hear the address, they hear someone's coding, and they run with it, and it's almost like and then they'll send out this message, and they'll like attach their links to sign up to their platform on the same message. Like, are you kidding me? Are you using this as an opportunity to grow your platform? Shame on you. Shame on you.
Well,
If you're guilty of this, you should. These people. I'm not saying cancel. We don't like talking like that. But you're not worth to have the platform you have if you use it so loosely and treat it like that.
I think
His own daughter put out, he's still alive. Let's daven for him. They're working on him. I mean, that's so sad for a daughter to have to respond to it. It was so sad.
I think there's an inclination to be the first on the scene, to be credited, whether it's good news or bad news. It doesn't have to be authenticated. I think can you imagine you call your brother or your sister, "I'm home. I got the letter in the mail. You're accepted in Harvard." Isn't that great news? And then you read it again. Oh, it says you're not accepted in Harvard. They just want to break the news. Just want to be the first one to be there, and I don't know what kind of there's no monetary compensation necessarily to use that as a motivation to do that. I think it's just some kind of human nature that requires a little bit of exploration and a little bit deeper understanding of why people are drawn in that direction.
It's funny because my son David was the first one to ask me, "Did you hear anything?" I said, no, this was like at 6. And then at 6:21, it's 20 more minutes of going by where he's still alive, apparently. So I right away said, hey, there's some kind of medrash or something that I heard that when someone spreads something like that you died and you really didn't, then you just, it's Arichas Yamim, it's school of Arichas Yamim. Then someone showed me Rochaim Kanievsky on Chumash where he says the exact opposite. If you curse somebody or you say someone died, they can die. And you never can let words out of your mouth like that. It's scary. About a guy who took off from work. He made believe his grandmother was sick and he had to take her to the hospital. And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, she went to the hospital and died. And he came back to Reb Chaim begging, what do? I killed my grandmother. So it's very scary. But that, I guess, is part of the kapara, part of the whole. Hashem this is all orchestrated from above, and it's all to inspire. We have to be inspired. And we all have people in our lives that we have to tap into. It could be a rav, it could be a spouse, it could be a child. We need to gravitate to positive people and to just always be happy and not be depressed, because that's what he was. And we have to just look at the good of all this. And he was just one of a kind. And it's so sad, taken from us so young.
Right. Yes. Shloime, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really appreciate it. So, transitioning into sort of the next story, it's very similar to what I want to discuss. There's something that went viral online the other day, and it has 23 million people saw it on Twitter. Okay. And it's a picture of somebody posing in front of Auschwitz on the tracks, basically doing a photo shoot. Okay. And obviously, with the guides, the people who bring you there tell you to please be sensitive. This is a place where so much evil happened and so much death. And for someone to be taking a photo shoot there, so that's being right now, that's gone completely viral on social media. People dissecting it and criticizing it. How well, I guess it was a younger person.
Yeah, I didn't see it. But a photo shoot of what? Just posing for a picture on
a person? A person sitting on the tracks, posing, like basically doing a photo shoot, like smiling.
Well, I don't know if they were making fun of the fact that they were at Auschwitz. Probably not. I'm guessing probably not. Yom HaShoah starts.
It's insensitive. It's insensitive to do a photo shoot if you're making fun or not making fun. The act itself is insensitive.
Yom HaShoah starts tonight. The Holocaust Remembrance Day is tomorrow, so I guess there's a certain timeliness to being drawn to those types of photos. And then the 80th anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising is observed on Wednesday. Communities around the world are going to have observances tonight because it is almost 8 decades later that the Holocaust occurred, and the number of survivors are dwindling very very quickly. But I 5-6 years ago, I visited Auschwitz, and we were in Poland. I walked on those tracks. I walked into the barracks. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. I wanted to be able to see it and internalize and absorb that experience. And you know what? Out in the parking lot, there were kids from Israel, from yeshivas, from seminaries, from other institutions. That it was the middle of the summer, so it wasn't on any kind of special day. But they were draped in Israeli flags, and they were dancing. Not because they weren't celebrating the fact that they were in Auschwitz, Nachi, but what we're communicating by visiting there, and some people won't visit there, but what we're communicating by visiting there and making it our business to take our schools there. A lot of yeshivas and a lot of seminaries, after the school is over at the end of this year, for example, on the way home or during the year, they're going to make a side trip to Poland for a few days to visit these sites, to communicate a message to the world that they try to wipe out the Jewish people from the face of the earth. And we are here. We are here. We are flourishing. We are thriving. We are succeeding. We're alive, and we're growing. And that's the message. I didn't see the picture you're referring to, but I'll reserve judgment until I see it. But I don't think it was necessarily somebody who was trying to mock or belittle the experience.
Yeah. Is there a reason, and I could be off with this, but do all communities, like maybe even more to the right, do they observe Yom HaShoah and Holocaust Remembrance Day, or is it sort of something that maybe exists in the background?
Well, I don't know the politics of the situation. I know that Pesach Krohn tells a story about his brother, Kalman Krohn, Oliver Shalom, who was once in a taxi cab in Israel, and he called the taxi cab Achi, my brother. And the guy was a Chiloni. He wasn't a religious guy. And he turned to him and says, "I'm not your brother. Where'd you get the idea that we're brothers?" He says, "Oh, I learned that from my Rebbe." Your Rebbe? Who's your Rebbe that taught you that you and you're a Haredi and I'm a non-religious person? Where'd you get this idea that we're brothers? "Oh, I got that idea from Adolf Hitler. Hitler taught Jews not to make those kind of dissections and dichotomies and separations between Jews." And I think if we can't, on a day like this, on an observance like this, okay, I know some people don't want to go in the direction of the rest of the world. They don't want to use it as an excuse to step out of yeshiva, perhaps, but it's not about that. You don't have to go to any ceremonies necessarily. You don't have to march in any parades. You have to internalize it in your heart, and we're all connected through this experience. And it doesn't matter what type of Jews or how observant your ancestors were who experienced that experience back in World War II.
No, I agree 100%. I think that it's 8 decades is it's crazy how long it's been, but it's very much part of our history.
I'm much older than you. That's the whole idea of this program, I think. But I remember back in the 1970s when I started doing radio programs, I used to interview Holocaust survivors, and I remember they would sit across from me, like this is sitting across from me, across the table with microphones. I didn't see them electronically. I don't know if the technology existed yet, for me anyway. But I think people would sit there. I would speak to men and to women who survived the Holocaust, came to America, and built new lives. And I couldn't connect the dots. I would sit there and talk to them, and I knew that, 30 years prior, they were, at death's door, being, mistreated and losing family. But I couldn't connect the dots. And that was just 30 years after the experience of the Holocaust. And that was 80 years later. And somehow I think we have to make an extra effort to keep all people, the entire Jewish community, in touch with that experience. We have it in our lives. Your grandmother was a Holocaust survivor. She's kind of her 92, almost 93 years old, and had her entire family eliminated. You don't have to go through the library and go through textbooks or go through videos to find out what the experience was like. You could see it and touch it, see it with your eyes and touch it with your own hands by just speaking with your grandmother.
Yeah, and really, if anyone gets the opportunity to make sure to get a bracha Get a bracha from somebody who went through the Holocaust. Bring your kids. Doesn't matter if they're 2, 3 years old. Take a picture of your child with a Holocaust survivor.
Time marches on, and Holocaust survivors, even if they were just 1 year old at the time of the Holocaust, and managed to survive and escape with their families, or some other fashion. They're in their 80s, mostly in their 90s, and it's a extremely important and potentially valuable experience. Anyway, what else do you want to talk about?
Well, bring it to present day. Obviously, there's a lot that happened over Yontif that we weren't able to speak about. One including the loss of life in Israel, in Eretz Yisrael. Families, it's almost crazy. Another set of sisters,
Yeah, so
a mother.
Right. It started with the Paley brothers, 5 and 6, 5 and 8 year olds, a few weeks ago, being killed by
a few months ago.
It's a few months ago already, by a car ramming, and then the Yaniv brothers on Route 60 being shot and killed at point blank range in their car, and then the D sisters, and then a day later, at the same attack, their mother was seriously injured and passed away a day later. And if you saw the news yesterday, Prime Minister Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu was Menachem Avel, the D family, Rabbi Leo D, D-E-E it's spelled. They're immigrants to Eretz Yisrael from England, and he has 2 daughters surviving and 1 son. And very, very courageous, brave people that believe in the cause of Eretz Yisrael, and that our sages have told us a long time ago that Eretz Yisrael is acquired through a great deal of Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice, and sometimes a great deal of pain, and these families are experiencing that pain.
Yeah, they're experiencing that pain, and it's listen, what can we say? It's happening way too often. The only answer really is Mashiach. That's the only answer. It's not what Netanyahu is going to do. It's not which military strikes we're going to do, because all those things are band-aids. It's all temporary. Okay, thank you everyone for tuning in to today's Daily Thread. Make sure to leave a review, a rating on this podcast. We hope to have some more guests on this program. Email us. You have someone you think we should have on to discuss a certain story. You can message us on the Daily Thread WhatsApp account, or you can email us at thedailythread@meaningfulminute.org. We hope to see you listening tomorrow. Have a good day.